Buddy the dog, what are you doing, my pal? One thing he's been doing is putting the hurt on those birds. You've been having bird for lunch? Well, that's nature. Anyway, we're gonna get started on the rest of our project right after this. Welcome back. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm Ross the Oliver Man. That's Buddy the dog. He's off doing Buddy the dog things. It's actually getting nice and much more warm. I don't know what the temperature is exactly, but I bet it's in the 50s because it feels like a heat wave compared to what it's been. And I would like to try to finish putting together that 77. However, we're going to take a side detour project on the way, and that is in my hand right now. This little jobby. When we got that 1020 over here, I saw that it still had one of these on it, and I remembered that from a kid, that this 2020 had one, and then it disintegrated and never had one again. And I thought, hey, why not get one? It was only like 10 bucks on the internet. And I bet you I'm gonna have about $50 worth of aggravation trying to get it to go on there. But I'm gonna give it a go real quick. It's probably not gonna go easy, and it's probably not gonna be fun because of the loader. And also because the hood has been in a street fight in its life. The old hood was dented, the battery boxes were dented down in, and the lid messed up, and the steering wheel was bent. And I always wondered what did that, and it turns out it happened almost when it was new. Dad said that he was the one driving it as a little kid, and he lifted the loader up too high. And I think they were cutting firewood, and the log rolled across here and wiped all this out. Took out the muffler, dented this, hit the steering wheel and bent it, and stopped right here. And I said, well, what did Grandpa say? And he said he never said a thing. I guess he was glad that Dad wasn't hurt, but pretty, I mean, I'm surprised he didn't say anything because he loved this tractor. But yeah, I'm betting there's not going to be a success on this, just by the way that this is. I bet what I'm going to have to do is do some sheet metal work on it before that happens. Because that's quite a bit back, and I don't think I'll be able to make it go. I mean, it probably needs to come off of there to even remotely have a chance. And this is so knutsened up, I just doubt it's gonna work. This may become a project for another day. Putting this in here is not going to be a big deal. Making it stay where it belongs is going to be another yeah, see? There's what I was thinking. I have to say that makes it not vibrate as much, but is it really where it belongs? I don't know. Wouldn't it be nice to have this all nice and, you know, body shop paint job like when it was new with no dents in it? Probably. Do we think that's ever going to happen? Probably not. It's not really down far enough now, I don't think. And then again, the trouble is it's got a lip on here and it needs to go in there. Good, all you got to do is dent your hood and then it'll go. I'm going to call that good. I think it'll be fine. Like I said, this is all not quite right. And whatever those little latches used to hit up there, they are no longer there. So See right there, we can see one. And the upper piece doesn't exist anymore. So if I can look at that 1020 and figure out how that was, maybe I can take this hood off and, you know, weld some stuff back on to make it more better. Also, I don't have the bolts in the back here, but there are bolts. But that makes it just a little bit more better, you know. It was supposed to have that, and now it does again. Consequently, for the 1020, I need to order those boots because, yeah, his are cut up, and if I'm going to be in there working anyway, I want to replace that vent line. It's leaking on his, so whatever. That's not what I set out to do right now. The sky always has other plans. I think it's literally going to rain on my parade. But we're gonna go as long as we can before something bad happens. Hopefully our parts get there for that thing soon, so we can, or get here for that thing soon, so that we can, you know, get some progress and make some money. But yeah, I think we're in the thick of it here, friends. All we have to do is to put things back, tighten things up, put the motor mount bolts tight, put the coupler on, slide it back, and lock it where it needs to go. And basically, the only thing we got to do for that is just get after it. So let's do that thing. Now, if you're like me, you enjoy struggling at life. That's not the right size. So we're going to play a fun game of remember what size things are. Okay. Now that bottom one should be 7/8. And somewhere here there should be a 7/8 wrench, you see. Since we just had it to take it apart, wouldn't it naturally follow that it would be here to put it back together again? Apparently not. All right, I think we're ready. Boy, I wasted 5 minutes getting stuff set up. I made an executive decision to roll the thing backwards so that we weren't working in mud. Now, this is not easy or pleasant if you're obese, and guess what? I am. But to try to get your hand up under the frame and put that together is not an easy task. It's like you can get one finger up there, but you can't really. Come on. Oh. Okay, we're going to play the same game of battery dead. I forgot about that. So we probably need to go to the truck and get a new battery. Or we could just keep them until we can't see them. That's pretty well tight. Yeah. So much fun, friends. So much fun. I'm going to do the other one on the other side that's that same size. And then I'm going to switch to the front two, which are a different size. And then we'll go about our merry life. Like I might throw the starter in there because we're right here. Some of the stuff I might not do tonight if we don't get done. Like that steering shaft really needs to be cleaned up. I don't like to put a greasy, nasty thing such as that back in this after taking the time to clean everything else up. And I think we got enough little stuff to be messing with that we're going to run out of daylight anyway. So, yeah. All right, sun's going down, but progress is being made. Got the whole front put together all the way back to the starter. Got to bolt the starter in and then do all of our little stuff here and our steering shaft, which will decide how we want to participate on that. We should probably also I got the ADD kicked in there. Before we're done here, we should probably also get that clip off of our parts distributor and tie that down correctly. But we're to the point of struggle. Not really too bad. It's going to be struggling for you to see what I'm doing. We're going to slide this coupler back, that coupler, back on that input shaft of the transmission. And there should be a hole in the input shaft where that little set screw tit goes into if you had the correct bolt, which I don't. But I'm going to try to feel around. There's the hole. Okay. There's the hole, friend. Most people spend their entire life looking for it. So we're going to put that on there. And then you see there's two operations that have to happen. Set screw has to go in the hole in the back half. Front half, the bolt has to go through the, if you recall, well, I have the old shaft so I can show you because we used a different one. But there's this cutaway and that bolt has to end up in there. The last guy who put this together had the bolt clamped out here. And that's why it did what it did. There was nothing here to hold it from just going a shoop and popped right out of the clutch. So it is important, you know. I would recommend doing it the correct way. Is it gonna go easy? I have no idea. And the temptation will be, if you can't do it by hand, I'll just take a hammer and tap it back. Well, that's how I bet he got out of whack to start with, whoever was the clutch job guy. Because if you're not paying attention, what will happen is it'll grab onto this and start pulling this backwards at the same time. So you got to be mindful of what's taking place. I'm not saying that you're not going to drive on it, because I'm about to, but you got to watch what's happening. When I order parts, I'm probably going to order the right bolt. See there, I think I'm starting to move it out of the clutch, and that's what we don't want. It's just a matter of feel. Get that going. Of course, you're right in the way, see? Now we're going. And then you drop your tool down in there where you can't reach it. And yeah, the cycle of life continues. It would also be super handy if you had put the hole in a place that you could see if you were in the right spot. And I'm talking about the front part, is what I'm saying. That's probably very, very close, because I can see the beginning of the teeth there. And you can look through this implement mount hole and look up and see. That's what I'm going to have to do to be sure that I'm... And I might even have to turn the engine ever so slightly to be able to see. Although in theory it should self-align, because there's only so much it can do. It is a fine threaded bolt. Some of the later ones, I believe, had two pinch bolts instead of one. And I could be remembering that wrong, and it was the early ones that had two bolts. But I would imagine that the later ones... Yeah, I went a little too far with it, I think. So now we should be right with the world. And of course, we're going to play a fun game of you can't get both hands in there and you need to. Well, that started in there, isn't it? We should probably, for good measure, start this abomination of a set screw in there. That I don't believe is the original thing. I know that's shocking to you, but maybe it is. I just don't think it looks like the ones I've taken out before. And you want to drop it first thing down in there too. That's step one. Drop it down. Drop it down in the rainwater so that it rusts good. That'll help holding on. We're not started straight at all, are we? And there might be a better position to have this to get it started. Once again, we're using the mind's eye because we can't see. You can't do it and see at the same time. And I don't remember if we decided that this wrench fits it. I think we did. It's just, this is a very slow, laborious process whilst we get that turned down in there. Because if you don't do a good job, sadness will happen. And that's how we got in this predicament in the first place. Somebody before us got in too much of a hurry with that, and then had a very bad, well, Craig had the bad luck from it, even though he's probably not the one who did this. He's the one who reaped the sadness from it. I'd say we're probably about where we need to be. Will be my official assessment. Now we need to tighten the outer nut to lock it down. And of course we're going to use the wrong side of the wrench first. And then we'll turn it over. Then we'll find out that's not the right wrench at all that we grabbed. This is a very specific procedure. You have to follow all these steps in order. If you just do it right the first time, the tractor won't run. That's a rule. So somewhere in here, we really should have a 5/8. There it is. Yeah. Okay, now we need to tighten that bolt on this side, and then the only other thing down in there to do is hook that spring back on the other side for your clutch return. Oh, and then the clutch plunger thing we took out. I forgot about that. We'll put that in too. But we need to probably get our ratchet here. All the stuff is right here. It's just a matter of not being so stupid and getting it. And really, it would probably be easier to have the thing turned down so that, you know, or we could just, let's just do it the wrong way. Let's use the ratchet not as a ratchet, but just as something to hold. And we'll just turn it this way. And actually, that nut is not in the best of spirits. So let's switch to this fits all tool. Now you really want to wrench this down until you hear that cast go tink. Then you know you went too far. Back it off a little and throw it away, because then it'll all be garbage. And it stays on better if you round it off. If you round it off real good, then you know nobody could sneak in there at night and loosen it. So just round it off. Yeah, tight. And I would probably recommend, after running it a little while, to check and make sure everything is still the way it's supposed to be. Because vibration, you know. Now, for this very fun time, which is about to happen, what we got to do is we got to make sure that the spring is still hooked in the plate, which I can tell you from experience that it is not. It's got like a, if I was real motivated, I'd show you on the other one. But it's got a slot that the spring goes through, and then there's a hole that the end of the spring fits in. And then the other end goes back there in that little cast hook. So yeah. All right. We're good there. We just need to make sure that there's just no way to film this and make this happen for you. So I'm gonna have to I'm just gonna have to have you take my word for it. There. It's not overly difficult to do. It's just that you need to make sure that you got everything hooked in the right place. And of course that leads us to the next affair, which is this little plunger rod, and it's got this little deal and a spring, and it pushes on that clutch fork. And what you're going to have to do is fight the spring you just put on, but really it's easier to put the spring on without extra stuff in your way. So, you know, you're just going to have to do it. Maybe you'll argue with me. Maybe you think it would be easier to not do it this way. But I think it is. Okay. So now you're going to struggle. And that's fine. Struggling's our favorite. I'm going to lightly clamp this on so I can turn, and then I'm going to push this where it should be in line and just go. If you do it right, you'll totally destroy everything, and then nothing will ever work again in your life, and then you know you've done it correctly. Again, maybe you would prefer to put the spring in, the clutch pullback spring, later, but I kind of feel like it just goes easier without this stuff in your way. Then the spring will kind of hold tension on this for you, and you can do what you need to do. Now, I'm not saying that this is where it needs to be, because we did, in fact, we're not where it needs to be, if that makes sense. And you probably don't know, because some of you probably didn't even watch the last installment when we took it apart. But it'll make sense here in a second. So right now it's way farther back than it should be, because I got the clutch pedal popped over where it normally stops. It's supposed to never go farther than that. And now we're in there. And we have some free travel. And I think it feels pretty good if I leave it right there. We can always change it. This really needs to... I think our spring has decided to change jobs here, because it's not wanting to keep the traditional shape that springs should have. But we'll go with it. We should probably lock that down. Yeah. But see, on these, that's how you adjust your clutch pedal travel. Whereas the later ones had a rod and a fork that you saw out here, and then they had a lever through there. These did not have that thing. So, sure. Okay. What next? Well, probably the starter. I kind of found the bolts that go there, but I don't have enough lock washers. But we're in luck, because the other day my brain finally decided to do its job, and when I was in the Rural King of stores, I managed to buy some hardware that I needed, like 3/8 nuts and bolts and little lock washers and washers. So I think they're still in my pickup, so I'll go get those, and then we'll have enough stuff, because we'll need a couple bolts here. I had to borrow from other places because the thing had kind of a mixed match of stuff, and we're going to put it back the way that it should be. So that is going to require us to get some new bolts for the things that we, you know what I'm saying. And then we might end up calling it for tonight, and I'll bring you back tomorrow in this same video, hopefully, where, you know, we can finally button it up and take it for a drive. But I'm thinking about like cleaning up the steering shaft and maybe that front fuel tank brace and getting that all the way that it should be. And then there's work we could do before we put it back together in the fuel tank leaks. And I think that the trouble is just that this leaks like a sieve, so we might just see about going to town tomorrow and getting a different one and changing her out. You know, maybe it's leaking somewhere else, but I don't think so. I think it's leaking in the shutoff and not up higher. But like I said, I could be wrong. But I think if we do that, we'd be in good shape. Maybe we need to stretch it. Yes, donkey. Maybe this needs to be another video. Maybe we're not ready to do this yet. But I know one thing we could do, and that is put the power takeoff back in so that that's closed up. Also, I apologize if this is boring sometimes, but guess what? There's a lot of steps that you have to do when you do this. And I don't think in the first video that I showed you all the steps. I just let you use your imagination and what have you. I think I'll go ahead and bolt this back in, and then we'll clean on this a little bit. Somebody did notice, and I didn't in the last installment, that there's a bolt loose. So we should probably replace that broken lock washer and fix that, or sadness could happen. But yeah. And you don't have very much battery, so you're probably not going to make it all the way. But we need to put this back in. Now, very important, this little collar thing is different on one side, and it's got like a little bleed off hole thing that has to line up with the bottom, because in the center of the bottom is a place for that to all go back the way she should. Now, what you're going to have to do here is turn it to get it to jump in not only to the front hub and the flywheel, but also on these, the shaft goes through the hydraulic pump. So on these tractors particularly, you have to pull this shaft to pull the hydraulic unit. On the later tractors, you do not have to do that for the hydraulic unit. I tried to say that in one of those videos, and I don't think it came out of my mouth the way that I intended, and maybe I cut that part out, but you got to turn it. Now, in order to turn the whole shaft, you need to probably like hold some tension on this. Yeah, what I just did is push on this so that it locks the clutch disc together. And then you see how I just jiggled that sucker right in there. And that's what you're going to want. And you might have to pull it out a little bit and go in. I don't know how to make that make sense. I know what I'm trying to say, but what I'm saying is, see, right now I'm not able to get the bolt started because the problem is that the bolt is too long and it won't do that thing. What are the words I'm looking for here, friends? Well, you know what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that you might not be able to start with it all the way in, but you need to make sure that it goes all the way in before you do any bolting. And then you can slightly pull it back out. Slightly pull it back out. Whatever you have to do to get that bolt to go down through that collar. Or you could just totally start over and not, you know. Because you actually have, I guess I should say, you actually have three things you're lining up. You're lining up the front set of splines, the hydraulic pump set of splines, and then there's a gear back here that drives the actual output shaft here. So all three of those things got to be playing nice together, or you ain't gonna have nothing go your way. That's what I'm trying to get across to you. Now this might make you cry. This is not exactly like a fun Friday night here, putting these 3 bolts in sometimes. But if you take your time, you'll get her wrapped in there, or get it wrapped up, I should say. There we go. And the PTO felt good, and it did work. So I'm not gonna adjust taking any shims out, but I am gonna fix that bolt. Thank you, viewer, for noticing that, because when I was taking it out, I did not notice that. And you're gonna wanna go around to all 3 a little at a time, so that it plays nice. Some people said, well, you don't need to say what you're doing as much because we all know. Well, I don't know. I think that there's people watching who don't know what's happening, so. And plus, it makes it more interesting if I'm at least saying something instead of just, you know, half an hour of silence, I think. But, you know, if you don't like my commentary, turn the sound off, I guess. And I don't think the person who commented that was harping on it. They just said they knew what I was talking about. Didn't have to say. But whatever. This is a process that was greatly improved on the 4 digits. It was a lot simpler. Snap ring, take loose, and pull the shaft out, so you didn't have to sit here and do all this. Consequently, this is a dry clutch, where most all of the 4 digits were wet clutch. There are some exceptions. 1600, 1550s, usually dry clutch. I think that cow just whistled at me. Okay. Now when you put the brass collar in, you're just going to make sure your grease fitting's lined up so that you can go through. There's a hole in the back. However, this is very, very dirty, and it's going to require some cleaning. So I think I'll work on that. I hate to say it, but man, I think we got enough footage for another video. I hate to leave you hanging on it, but that's just how she goes. I mean, most people have said they don't want to sit and watch an hour at a time. They'd rather watch, you know, 25 minutes, 35 minutes at a time. So I guess we'll probably leave this one here, but progress is being made, and then the next one we will in fact drive it. I promise you, because yeah, we'll be able to get all that stuff done in the next one. It's taking longer to put it back together than it took to take it apart, because I'm doing more things to make it more better along the way. But yeah, we're not going to go all the way yet. We're not going to paint the whole thing. We probably should, but later on when we tackle the rest of it and want to make it look nice, I'll order a battery tray. We'll saw this one out. We'll take the fuel tank back out, and then when we put that battery tray in, we'll make it where we can bolt it in, and that lets us be able to work down in the dash. We can clean that all up, make it nice, and we'll maybe redo some of this wiring. Maybe get rid of some of this wiring that we don't need here, that's not very good. And then, yeah, we're just going to make it more better along the way. Mini alternator is in its future, because these just don't fit in there good. I used to do that too, and you can't close the side panels without this starting to grind on them and stuff. So we will just plug away at this project, even if it's taking longer to go back together than maybe some people would like, but I promise you that you will get to see it drive again very soon. So until next time, we're going to leave this one here. After watching what you just saw, do you feel like your IQ has dropped lower than your credit score? Well, there's no reason that both of us should be miserable, so go ahead and hit that thumbs up and leave a comment. That stuff costs you nothing, and it really helps me out. Your banker may not approve, but I know mine will. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.